Or, I mean, if it's like your business, like Mosquito Joe, right? You got to pull energy from somewhere in the business, whether it's developing a team of people, maybe that jazzes you up or jazzes people up. I'm going to build this thing to where I'm going to make a difference in my employees' lives. I'm going to be a great boss. I'm going to be a great business owner. And that's what's going to jazz me up. You have to pull energy from somewhere in the business.
Yo, this is the Streetwise Podcast. We're here to help you level up your game, level up your leadership, and level up your life. I'm your host, Matthew McReynolds. I'm a multi-brand franchisee, and I'm a franchise consultant where I help people find, launch, and build their ideal business. My main goal is to help you get off of zero and become the person that your dreams need you to be. Buckle up, get your popcorn ready. Let's go. All right, Streetwise Nation, today we're talking to Drew Carpenito. Drew is a franchise consultant with FranChoice. We connected a while back, and I heard him on so many podcasts at this point. It's dang near ridiculous. He's got his own franchise masters, and he is a wealth of knowledge. Get your notebook ready. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. All right, so when you're talking to a guest, right, like, because you got a show, what are you doing to build out your schedule? So if you're thinking like, okay, I want to put out this many podcast episodes this quarter, who are you looking to talk to when you're like building out the depth chart?
Yeah. I'm not that organized, dude.
So you're not organized. Okay.
No, man. I've literally been doing this thing off the side of my desk. So here's one thing I did. I did make the decision. I said, I'm not having founders on anymore because they just blow a bunch of hot air politician talk. And I was like, no, you know what?
Yeah.
Like, I had some good people on, don't get me wrong, but like, I was like, nah, I want to get like, I want people, at least the way that I'm going about it, I want to have people who are in the game, not
so franchisees
at the ivory tower. Yeah. I only do multi-unit franchisees. Now I did just hire a virtual assistant. Her name's Anne.
Tell me about
amazing.
that. Let's go.
She lives in the Philippines, and she's awesome. So now, like literally this morning, we were like, okay, like I was like, here's a couple sources to like find some, multi-unit franchisees that have had their stories featured somewhere. Like, let's put together an email, and you can just start reaching out to them. So I do have some help now where we're going to be. So I'm very bursty, dude. I'll do like 4 or 5 in a month, and then I'll take a month off. I'm not organized at all, but that's how I.
How many episodes have you put out so far?
30 or 40, something like that, maybe.
Okay. No, that's interesting. Well, you've had some like tax people on. Like you haven't had just franchisees. You've talked to like maybe not franchisors, but maybe like is vendor the right word?
Yeah,
so like third party, like CPAs.
I will have people on that can add value to an experience to a franchise owner. Yeah, I will definitely have got people on, guys and gals.
Okay, yeah. I think some of those I really like those episodes because they've been a huge value add to me. But I'm interested in the virtual assistant that you just said. So is that the only thing that she does? Have you been able to plug her into other areas of building out your business other than just the podcast? Because you're pretty multifaceted in what you do. You're a franchise consultant, obviously, and we'll get into that later. But you've got a lot goes into it, a lot more than a person on the outside would think.
I'm a tinkerer. I like to figure stuff out, and it's to a detriment sometimes, but it also I get energy from it. So like yesterday, I didn't have a CRM system, which is like kind of crazy to think about. And I had organization, but it wasn't really like a CRM system. And I've built out CRM systems in my past, in the corporate life and stuff. I just couldn't find one that I liked. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this HubSpot thing. And it's freaking expensive. It's really complicated.
Yeah. HubSpot is up there.
But I needed I came out of the FranChoice conference. I was like, okay, I need to get more organized. I know that I can't do. I've reached a peak for being a one-man band. So I put out this post. I wrote up this post, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna hire a part-time mommy. Somebody who's while the kids are in school, she can help me out. And I'm not trying to be sexist about it. Just that's kind of the profile I had in my head.
It's an avatar, yeah, profile, sure.
And so I put this post out on like my Facebook and LinkedIn, and dude, I got hit up by like 100 people.
Oh wow!
And I was like, wow, I didn't expect that kind of response. But it was kind of a good, work from home gig, and yada yada yada. And then one of my buddies, who's a multi-unit franchisee, was like, dude, you need to look at the Philippines. Because everything that you put on that, what you're looking for, you can get done for cheaper, and it's probably going to be a little more reliable. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Cause I'm seeing these messages and they're like, hey, I can help you, but the summers are going to be tough when the kids are out of school. And I was like, well, that's not really what you want to tell somebody during a job interview. So
right.
I was like, all right. So anyways, I went to the Philippines and there's this job board you can do. And he told me about it. I put a posting up for like $70. And I got another 100 applicants. And one of them emerged pretty quickly as a good fit. So yeah, this is like our third or fourth week working together. So it's awesome.
Okay. So talk to me a little bit about that's okay.
20
so
hours
talk
a week,
to me a little bit about
no taxes.
20 hours a week, $10 an hour. You didn't physically go to the Philippines. You used some sort of a service. What type of tools are out there? I mean, did you just go to one? Did you research? What are you using?
Nope.
Like which one? Which platform?
I fly by the seat of my pants, my friend. I will make quick decisions, and sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's not so good. All right. So, but my buddy my buddy who's the multi-unit franchisee, he was like, "Hey, go. It's onlinejobs.ph, and it's just for like Philippines or that part of the world. It's a job board. It says the job board for virtual workers in the Philippines. I had no idea what to expect, but I had heard good things about it before. Like I had a couple buddies that had mentioned, I've got my whole back office in the Philippines. Like guys that are running like $30-40 million franchises as multi-unit franchisees are like, yeah, I got HR, I got accounting, I got, accounts receivable, accounts payable, anything that can be done administratively. I've got it in the Philippines. And basically like over the years, the Philippines have gotten accustomed to the American way of doing business. So like, even though it's kind of their night during our day, they stay up during the night and work during their night and sleep during the day. So, it's a thing, and the exchange rate's really good over there. So, I put a posting out, and the good news is there's not a lot of laws that kind of govern this thing from an employment basis. So I was like, all right, like if it doesn't work out, I'll just keep hiring people because I had no idea what to expect. So I was like, screw it, we'll just get into it. And then Anne, she tracked me down on LinkedIn and wrote me this really nice, sweet message. And I was like, okay, that's it. Anne, you're hired. Let's go. And it's been good. So I hopped on a Zoom with her. I did hop on a Zoom with her and get to know her, but it was like 10 minutes. And I was like, all right, let's roll.
So I've talked to other people and they've interviewed, 2 to 3, maybe 4 candidates. And one of the guys is heavy sales, and the person that he was going to hire was going to have to do a lot of calling. And so he hired based on, well, this person had sales experience, and the accent, couldn't even hear an accent at all. Just sounded like very American English. And that was it. And it's turned out to be a really good experience. He said there was about a 3 to 4 week ramp up of training, but it sounds like you've already kind of got everything streamlined and going. Or are you just you've only chosen a couple tasks for her as you started, and you might build on it later?
Yeah, we've been easing into it.
Okay.
But just like confirming calls, like doing stuff that I was doing myself, like I'm slowly like giving her more and more stuff. Now, the big thing that I needed to get was the CRM system so that we could work together off of that. So we could have a central platform to see how, all the candidates and all this stuff and where they are in the process. And I was going to do this HubSpot thing. And then I found another guy over in the Philippines that was this HubSpot whiz programmer guy. And, but HubSpot is like, it's so much more than what I need.
Yeah.
And so like literally this weekend, I was like, you know what? I've heard about this Monday.com CRM. Let me check this out. And I did it. And so I literally yesterday went on like just a tear. It was a Sunday, kids were home, Allie was with my wife, and I was like, hey, I'm having a moment. I just need to roll with this. And I just built out that CRM system yesterday and ignored my family, for an entire Sunday.
Yeah,
but I
got locked in.
So yeah, I was just like in the zone. It's hard, like during the week, right? Like, it's just hard to get that stuff done.
You're running and gunning. Yeah. And that's the stuff that's important, but it's not urgent at all. And so it just keeps getting pushed back and back. Yes. So whenever you say you built out the CRM, what did you do? Are you importing information from, people that you have as leads? Are you building out drip campaigns? What did it look like for you to lock it out, to get it started yesterday? So then you're going to have a virtual assistant come in on the back end and actually work it for you.
Yep. I just needed like a nice color coded visualization so I could see where everybody is in the process, and a way to segment out people that are, maybe just talking to me but haven't fully engaged yet. So I needed a way to separate the curious from the serious.
Different like categories of people, so different like audiences essentially.
Yeah, you can like organize it in like, I think it's called boards in Monday. I'm literally like 20. You're catching me like 24 hours into this thing, so I'm going to probably say some stuff that isn't like accurate on how this thing actually works. But basically, like I didn't know. I just signed up. I was like, you know what? Just sign up for it and just start playing around with it and see what it does. And I started playing around with it, and I was like, okay, this thing can do what I need it to do. I can have my leads on one board, and then I can have my active candidates in another board. They're completely separated. I can easily link them together. I'm building out email templates because right now I use like a Microsoft Word. I have stuff on my desktop, Microsoft Word. And
so you'll have templates actually built in. You'll have templates built into Monday that then you can send out from there. So you don't have to have them separated in Microsoft Word. I got it. No, this is super valuable. This is like the thing that I'm trying to go through right now. I mean, I'm having conversations with my team, my wife, like I need help. You talked about reaching the peak. It's like, I feel like I am getting close to that thing. And so that's maybe the first podcasty question I wanted to ask you is like, how did you have to define your peak to when you needed to start outsourcing some of this stuff? What did that look like before in what you're doing? Because you've built a pretty success. I mean, from my eyes, I'm newer into franchise and consulting, but Drew Carpenito, I mean, you've done some things in the space, my friend.
Let's keep those.
What is the peak? What does the peak look like? Like, what did that feel like for you?
Well, I had a busy year last year, and being a one-man band, it's kind of the nature of the franchise thing, right? It's like, it's just kind of you. I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, it's time to, stop doing everything and having your hand in 18 different things. Like, time to let go.
Sure. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah. No doubt.
And so I've been cycling on it for like 2 months. Went to the conference. Pete, Irving, and Rick sat up there on their panel and did their thing. I was like, okay, that was the moment. I was like, all right, let's go. Let's do this. And then I like that Sunday, I wrote up this job post. I was like, I'm just going to put this out in the world. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where I'm going to go. So I wasn't like, I didn't have this planned out very well. It was just like, just do it and you'll figure it out as you go, which I think we that's kind of how entrepreneurship goes, right? You just got to start doing stuff. So,
sure.
So anyways, that was it, man. And I just started doing it. And then, you just start you get one piece in place and you're okay, like now I can do this piece. And, you just kind of start building it. I knew if I sat back and tried to get everything mapped out and written down or whatever. Yeah. It was just like, I just knew that wasn't going to happen. So yeah,
I feel that. So you've built out a pretty significant network. I mean, how long have you been in franchising in different capacities?
It's all I've ever done. Completely accidentally. 18 years now.
How has your network changed as you've altered in the seat that you sat in within the franchising space? Like, do you still connect with the same people that you did when you were in development or as a franchisee and now as a consultant? Has it changed the way that the way that you interact with people and who you interact with? And I have a reason I'm asking it this way.
I think the nature of our business is like it's cool. We get to talk to a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life, right?
Yeah,
phases of life. I've always been a very terrible networker in terms of like trying to be like an intentional networker.
Really?
I don't like it. I don't like it. No, I like belly to belly stuff.
Surprises me.
I like this, like one-on-one, but
work in a room is different. Like, that's a different beast in and of itself. Like 100 people in a room, you got to make small talk. You got to kind of find who you can kind of leverage to then, like, everybody's kind of selling when they shouldn't be. It should be about making connections, but it's kind of icky sometimes. Like, I get that. Networking is it's all I do for the most part.
Yeah. And our world, there's also a lot of hot air being thrown around. And so I've just said, like, you know what? I don't want to, those are the people I don't want to hang out with or have in my circle.
Yeah.
I just want to connect with people that are doing this in a real, raw, candid way and, trying to help people the right way. And so like, I've just kind of found myself, filling in my circle, which continues to grow every year, of people that are of that mindset, not people that I just maybe don't, connect with pretty quickly. Cause I get the vibes that we have different vibes, if you know what I mean. So,
yeah, no doubt. So I've heard the first time I came kind of across you was on Franchise Empires, and you were on there, and then you did another episode recently, and it kind of came across as you guys were building like collaboration in the way that you guys were talking and just adding value into the process of anybody trying to level up through franchising. So I'm curious, like you obviously have connected with him. What do you look for when you're making content, you do a podcast like that, when you find somebody that you want to add to your circle? Is there anything specific that you're looking for when you decide, like, I'm actually going to do like a recurring thing with you, like I'm going to link up with you and we're going to do stuff not just once, not just twice, but ongoing?
Yeah, I think it's just people who have similar philosophies to how you want to talk, and what do you want to talk about, right? Him and I had some offline discussions and we connected pretty quickly. Like, he's trying to do it the right way, in a real raw way to help people, understand franchising at a fundamental level. It's not just about these juicy item 19s and selling the dream. It's like, look, it's a lot of hard work. Now, the upside can be freaking amazing, right? But to get there is difficult, and it's more work than most people think, kind of thing.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, like he was aligned with that, and other people. We just been able to connect on like, certain philosophical things, and same thing goes with like other folks in the network. So there's other people out there on the podcast circuit, out there, doing making it sound all rainbows and sunshine and, whatever, all that stuff. So that's just not who I really want to connect with.
What's going on, everybody? I hope you're liking the conversation this far. Please take a moment, give it a 5-star review. It really helps spread this out to as many people as possible. All right, let's get back to the episode.
Where do you see your podcast growing to? I mean, it's just a means to an end. Is it just a way that you can do lead gen? Is it a way that you can add value? I remember we had a conversation about, some of these consultants are out here writing books. I didn't think you got the good, you might not be writing a book anytime soon.
I wrote
Do you
one.
already have a book?
I
would say, do you already have one?
It's not a book. It's a pamphlet. It's a 45 page.
Okay.
But I think it can be, it falls under the definition of a book. Yeah, look, I think I don't have a strategy with my podcast. I wish I did. I get feedback from, I get like maybe once or twice a month, somebody will randomly send me a message that I don't know. And they'll be like, hey, Drew, I heard a couple of your podcast episodes. I just want to tell you, I love them. Like, they're very helpful, very insightful. You're very authentic in how you do it. Like, that message means more to me than any business stuff or anything like that, because it gives me energy.
Yeah, no doubt.
And it's been fun. Like, that's what fires me up, is to like help people get their story out into the world. Cause I think like franchising is an amazing opportunity. I think, everybody thinks about opening up their own business one day, right? Very few people actually do it. So if I can, get some messaging out in the world by telling stories of other people, or helping people tell their own stories that have done it, that are living it as multi-unit franchisees, it just fires me up, dude.
What's been one of the best stories, or maybe something that you've really like hit your heart when you talk to a franchisee, when they are telling you like how they got in to running a business, how they've overcome issues? Anything come to your mind?
Oh man, there's so many of them. Yeah. I think everybody has like their own unique story that does have success with franchises, that get into it for the right reason, put in the work, go through the delayed gratification of that first year, which is tough. There's one story, Diane Wilson with Tutor Doctor.
Okay.
So I worked for Tutor Doctor. That's how I got to know Diane Wilson. And she lives up in Sudbury, Ontario, which is like way north of Toronto. Yeah. Wow. Mining town, like a good town, but like not a major metropolitan market. And she took this home-based business model like Tutor Doctor, which is tutor matchmaking. Like she matches kids of all ages, all subjects with tutors, for parents that don't have the time to go through the screening process and stuff. And then all the tutoring is done one-on-one at their home or virtually. It's a good business. And then she grew this thing to a monster. And now her daughters run it. She has 2 daughters who are probably between 25 and 30 years old. I think they have families, and they both run it. So she's literally taken this $50,000 investment, no overhead, lifestyle friendly business, and scaled it up to where it's literally a family run operation. Like that in a market where you would never think it's possible. Yeah. So
that's pretty cool.
Now she's amazing. You know, it's not because of Tutor Doctor, it's because of Diane. But
yeah, what about her? What about her allowed her to do that? Like, what characteristics did she have that set her apart? Because I think you made a good point. It's not necessarily the widget, but the person working the widget and how she was able to do it based on her strengths and her mindset.
She had no background in teaching either. She was a mom. Like that was it. She was running like an insurance office, a State Farm insurance office before this. I would probably pin it down to two things. She's a dog. I mean, her work ethic is like, she will outwork anybody. I mean, she's just a dog when it comes to just getting it done. And the second thing is she genuinely cares about every one of the kids in her business and trying to help them get a little bit better each time. So she takes it, you know, not too personally, but she genuinely cares, and she gets her energy from that. And she, you know, she's ambitious, don't get me wrong, but I think just like her energy and her hard work, and then being able to make a difference in these kids' lives and feeding energy from that, like the money follows that stuff, right? It wasn't the money. It was not she did not set out to build this monster of a business. But it just happened through the success that she kept having, making a difference in all these kids' lives.
Oh, I like that. I mean, so first thing I heard you say, she had that dog in her, that she's got grit, and she was willing to outwork you and do whatever it takes to put food on the table. And then second, I mean, yes, she personally loved the kids. She loved the idea of developing the next generation. But what I hear is she really had a passion for what she was doing, and she found something that she knew that it would light her up in the morning. So for somebody else that's looking at a franchise, I mean, really, the first thing they got to ask themselves, do you got that dog in you? Are you willing to put in extra work? Like, you're not getting into a franchise for it to just be created perfectly. Like, no, you're going to have to work. It's going to be hard. You're going to have to grind. You're going to fail a bunch of times before you're successful, and you got to be willing to do it anyway. And then second, it helps when you find a concept that you can be passionate about in one way or the other. So it might not necessarily matter the specific widget, but it should be a widget that you're passionate about. I mean, do you agree to that?
100%. I think, or like if it's like your business, like Mosquito Joe, right? Like you got to pull energy from somewhere in the business, right? Whether it's developing a team of people, like maybe that jazzes you up or jazzes people up. Like, hey, I'm gonna build this thing to where I've got, you know, I'm gonna make a difference in my employees' lives. I'm gonna be a great boss. I'm gonna be a great business owner, and that's what's gonna, you know, jazz me up. You have to pull energy from somewhere in the business.
I love that. I love that. Money. I totally resonate. Yeah. And then money, you can't not care about money, or else why would you do this anyway? You know, you can set up a 501c3 and operates generally the same. It's just you get money from donations and grants, but you're not trying to get rich. But I resonate with that personally, because Mosquito Joe, I remember the first couple of years when I was out there doing all the spraying and I was talking to the customers, and it's like, man, I got a college degree in urban education with an emphasis in criminal justice. The last 5 years I've been working in the inner city doing exactly what I wanted to do, and now I'm going door to door and I'm spraying for bugs. What the heck am I doing here? But eventually I was able to see, after I made my first hire, that I actually get to do the same thing but on a different platform. And so for me, developing the team and developing a culture of literal development where I can see somebody come in and I can facilitate their personal and professional growth to when they leave my organization, not if, but when they leave my organization, they're in an exponentially better place than they were when they walked in the door. That for me fires it up. And the second brand, we picked the second brand because of a couple reasons. Home service. And so we thought, all right, it'll be better for us to facilitate another concept if it's also home services, because that's what we know. And then I wanted something that was a different size ticket. Mosquito Joe is very heavy on weather. So if it rains, you're done. Any issue with the weather, too cold, you can't treat. But it's also a very low ticket. So I wanted something that was bigger. But what I didn't think about, and I think this is something that you might be able to speak into when somebody looks to add a second brand. I made the mistake of a couple key things. I didn't fully research my market, and I didn't realize there were like 5, 10, 15 other paint franchise concepts literally in my market. That was one. And then second, I didn't realize the difference of the sales cycle. Mosquito Joe, once you build up a base, you have recurrent. We're going into I was right before I hopped on this call, I was working with my field ops guy, and he built out the route for the next 3-4 weeks as we start the season, because we're in Texas. I mean, we're going to start spraying next week, last week of February. We're starting to do a tree. Yeah, let's go. And so he built that whole thing out. So it's going to be like 12K in revenue next week, 23K in revenue the following week. And then we'll be sitting at 20 to 23K in revenue moving forward. Done. It's easy. We were spoiled. Paint, you do a $20,000 house, and then you wake up the next day, and if you didn't sell something else, you got nothing on the books. And you have to constantly be selling. I wasn't prepared for that. And so my launch was way longer than I thought.
Yo, thanks for listening this far. It's at this point in the episode that I want to talk about Streetwise franchising, teaching, training, building. Streetwise franchise. As a franchise consultant, it's my job, it's my absolute pleasure, and it's my mission to help aspiring entrepreneurs find, launch, and build their ideal business. I've been a franchise owner for almost a decade. I know what it means to struggle. I know what it means to build a team. If you're ready to get off of zero, if you're ready to build something for yourself, visit streetwisefranchising.com. Let's get the conversation started. Don't wait until tomorrow to build your future. It starts today. Streetwise franchising. Stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Let's get back to the episode.
I don't know. I'm curious if you've noticed, or if you've been able to talk, or, as a consultant, if you're able to guide people through adding on a second brand or kind of facilitating those thoughts ahead of time, because I didn't have a consultant. I knew I wanted to become one. Now on the back end, I have a ton of experience, but somebody would hire a consultant because we have that experience on the front end.
Yeah, I can give you well, I think like, it's like if you're killing it with one business, what's the likelihood that you're going to kill it with a second business? Because every business is so much different, right? Like there's very few identical businesses, but I'll give you one example where it's going well. I got a call from he told me I can say this, a budget blinds franchisee. So
okay.
guys crushing it, has been in budget blinds, I think 15, 20 years, like crushing it. But he's limited by expansion because everything's sold out around him. Because it's basically
same as us and Mosquito Joe.
Yeah, like two systems that have done very well. It's very hard to get into those systems without having to buy a resale. Well, he didn't want to pay the premium that he knew he was going to have to pay to buy out his neighboring franchisees. So he called me and he's like, and I didn't know this guy. And he's like, hey, I'm a budget blinds franchisee. I'm like, damn it. I'm like, this is going to be hard. He's like, I'm looking for another brand. I'm like, dude, you're spoiled. That's why I said you're spoiled. I was like,
you're spoiled.
That's what I said. I was like, there's one that I know about that operates almost identically to budget blinds, and it's in the same space. Let me check to see if it's available. And it was Shelf Genie.
Oh,
very similar operating model, right? Like niche product. Shelf Genie even is like a little bit more variable on the labor because it's typically commission only salespeople, commission only installers. But like, installing blinds, that's about as easy as it gets in the production side of home services. Putting the shelving units in, it's not as easy. I'll probably get roasted by saying this, but compared to painting a house, it's a lot easier than painting a house.
Dang straight.
So like that was it. So he and it's like the same customer too, right? Like people that are buying budget blinds are probably buying Shelf Genie stuff. So this guy did a soft launch last month in January. He called me and he's like, we didn't even try to, we're not even turned on the advertising yet. And we sold $35,000 worth of Shelf Genie product to our existing customers. I was like, dude, you're not even trying yet. He's like, well, no, like we wanted to like learn how to do the installation and stuff like that. And I was like, well, that's, sounds like it might go pretty well if you keep having those kind of, months, especially once you turn on advertising. So that went well.
Yeah.
I've seen some people in the health and wellness space have a lot of success with one brand, get a little spoiled because it was a good brand, and get into another health and wellness business that ended up not being as good.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like I don't know if there's an answer to figure it out.
Yeah, it's more of an art, I guess, and understanding your strengths and where you're spoiled at, where you might have some blind spots. I mean, that sales cycle for me was a blind spot. The complexity of, facilitating, working with subcontractors and making sure that you're still hitting your margins was a blind spot for me, for sure. But
revenue.
Yeah, there's not.
You're also spoiled by recurring revenue, right? That's
that recurring. Yeah, but then the other thing, yeah, I mean, yes, that recurring revenue is nice. Love me a good recurring revenue model. The thing that is difficult, though, that we've run into, I've said this on the podcast before, I've gotten my hand slapped more than once by Mosquito Joe corporate because of cross-selling and cross-branding and them wanting to make sure that they maintain the integrity of the brand and targeting specific customer bases with a completely separate brand, especially from a separate parent company. And I just wonder, that can't be unique to me. Have you heard of anything like that?
Is that a neighborly thing?
It might be a neighborly thing. Yeah, it might be a neighborly thing.
It feels like a
neighborly. Okay, so maybe other concepts outside of neighborly might not be as strict with selling to your customers. That's the thing. Like, my customers aren't really mine, quote unquote. They're Mosquito Joe customers. They're the franchise customers. And so marketing other services and other brands that aren't neighborly has been frowned upon, I guess.
Oh, it sounds like a $4 billion company's corporate decision versus like a more entrepreneurial company.
Okay, that's
because it would go both ways, right? It should go both ways. Like, look, I'm not just cross-selling one way. I'm cross-selling both ways here. Like, and you're getting a royalty off the stuff that I my Mosquito Joe cross-sell to my painting customers, right? So, like, what's the problem?
100%.
When you're sitting on $4 billion worth of system-wide revenue or whatever the number is, like, maybe they're not counting every dollar of revenue, the 6-7% royalty coming off every dollar, like some other companies might be.
Yeah, and Neighborly is interesting too, because Neighborly is doing this thing right now with the Neighborly Hub, where they're trying to get all the franchisees regionally to connect and network. They're basically creating a big networking spot where we can get to know one another and become more comfortable, because they're pushing the platform of the hub, the app, and also the rebranding of all Neighborly brands, all 20, 30 different brands that are in the Neighborly system. If anybody coming in, they get their vehicle wrapped. I think it's on the wrap. If it's not 50% Neighborly, it's pretty dang close. I think the specs are 40-60. So 40% like the blue Neighborly wrap, and then the other 60% or 50% is the actual brand. And they're trying to create a concept of, to the customer, it's Neighborly. It's not necessarily Mosquito Joe. It's Neighborly. Neighborly facilitates this. And they're getting a lot of pushback from franchisees within the system. So I'm interested, like, how it's going to pan out in the long run. But if you've seen anybody else like go for that type of a play before from a big franchisor company, or what does that make you? What does that make you think?
Yeah, it sounds like a bunch of suits sitting in a $4 billion company boardroom making a decision like that. No offense to Neighborly.
Yeah. We love Neighborly, though. We love Neighborly. We love Neighborly on the Streetwise podcast.
We love Neighborly, yes. I don't know. I have no idea. It on paper maybe makes sense. In reality, I don't know. I feel like there could be the risk of diluting the brand, the Mosquito Joe brand or whatever.
That would be my, like, if somebody were to hear my opinion, then I would say something similar. You're diluting the integrity of the individual brand. Yeah.
Yeah,
we might get somebody on here. We might get Miss Mary on here one day.
Like, you don't want to confuse the customer, right? Like, keep it simple. don't try to do too much. I have seen brands that try to do too much, maybe not with that exact strategy, but like they offer all this amazing stuff to the customers, but then the more you try to say you do, the harder it is to create that quick connection to the customer from an advertising and a marketing standpoint for them to get it, which is at the end of the day, the most important thing, right? The customer. So I don't know.
Do you see that from like an individual brand perspective or from like the franchisor to the franchisee perspective? Like franchisors doing too much.
I've seen franchise companies try to do it to the customer and it didn't work well. And then I have seen franchisors who run their entrepreneurial organization like a Fortune 500 employee based organization and treat their franchisees like employees, and that doesn't go well because they're not.
It kind of seems like. Go ahead.
It ain't that complicated. Just listen to the damn franchisees because they typically have better ideas than. Like I'll give you an example. They typically have better ideas. And everybody's rowing in the same boat in the same direction. Like we're all trying to grow the business, grow revenue.
Yeah.
I mean, make money, right? It's not like we're trying to and do it.
We're heavily invested in.
Yeah. I've seen companies lose sight of that. And I do think if you simplified it, you're like, hey, just get the ideas from the franchisees because they have really good, there's a lot of good ideas that can come from that. There's one company, a big old company out there that's moving, they're jacking up the royalty. So all these franchisees that are up for renewal now, they're going to get stuck on a higher royalty agreement, and the rollout was freaking terrible. It was like, we're basically the message was, hey, we're increasing the royalty because the company has needs and we need to make more money. It wasn't, hey, look, this is going to suck. We're sorry, we got to do it for the company's best interests, but here's what we're going to do with this money that we're collecting now is we're going to go put together this amazing marketing campaign. We're going to go hire this, this famous person to be the spokesperson for the brand. And it's going to help increase revenue and help increase system-wide sales. And everybody's going to benefit from it. There was no plan. There was no like, what's this money being used for? And let's just say they didn't have a franchisee association before. They're about to.
Man.
Oh yeah.
I see. That's the type of stuff I love because again, I have a very limited experience. I mean, I've been in Mosquito Joe. I've been a franchisee going on season 9, but I haven't necessarily until recently started to see the bigger picture. What's the biggest difference when a company doesn't have a franchisee association versus when they do? Like what types of changes start to be made there? I mean, is it like, in my mind, it's like, all right, franchise company might get sued. Is that like the direction that it goes, or is there changes beforehand before that happens?
Question. I think it's all a function of how the franchise company chooses to manage the internal operations with their franchisees. And once a system gets big enough, it's basically a form of unionization, right? Which typically isn't good for anybody, but it's not. It's the thing that happens before any kind of legal stuff happens. So I think if you actually if the franchise company actually looks at it and hey, this could be a really good thing. We're actually going to have a more formal. I mean, typically there's an advisory council set up first, and then if that's not working very well, then that's when the association might get formed. So it's like the next step of a more formal organization of the franchisees to share their collective voice and ideas and be heard. So again, I think it can be a good thing if everybody's rowing in the same direction and trying to accomplish the same thing. It's like, hey, let's work together to work through these issues, solve these items. And by the way, we're franchisees. We'll give you some free labor, some free ideas. Maybe we'll help you save a couple hires at the corporate level or whatever it is, because we're willing to help. So I think it's just a lot about how the companies embrace it, but functionally, it's how they choose to treat their franchisees that is a result of whether the franchisees feel like they need to organize.
Yeah. How comfortable are you giving a shout out to somebody who's done that well? I mean, have you seen a specific brand or a specific group really listen to their franchisees well, just from your experience as, in the seat that you sit in? I mean, you've been in development and franchisee and a consultant now for.
Yeah, the OGs behind Mosquito Joe, those guys over at Buzz, I think they do a pretty good
Buzz,
job.
yeah.
I think they do a good job. I'm trying to think of
What is it? Maybe like, okay, so I appreciate the shout out. What does it look like for a franchisor like Buzz to listen to their franchisees and maybe adapt accordingly?
Yeah. I think it starts with like the business consultant, regional support folks that are working directly with the franchisees on their day-to-day basis.
Like the coaches, like the FBCs. Yeah. Okay.
It's like they hire good coaches that also understand that they're working with entrepreneurs who have their livelihood on the line every day, trying to, build a business and crush it. Right. And they culturally, they find a way to work under that unique dynamic. It's not an employee-employer relationship. It's not like a district manager going to check on their store managers and the district manager has that authority. It's like they technically probably have authority in a franchise system, but you still got to earn the respect for franchisees to listen to you. And what's it all about? Making money and being happy and taking care of the customers.
Yeah.
So I think franchisors treat their franchisees like customers. Good stuff happens. So I don't know of any, I think, I don't know if it's like one or two things. I think franchise companies that have a relentless pursuit of revenue is good because revenue solves just about every problem that could be bubbling up.
Yeah.
It boils down to like really good marketing and advertising strategies and systems, right? It's like, hey, let's figure out some creative ways to create some scalable advertising that works.
Something that I've seen, that one painter, Stephen Montgomery, that they talk about on LinkedIn, but they'll have their like corporate staff. It seems like supporting and doing like sales-a-thons or revenue-a-thons with their franchisees. I might need somebody on there to actually like verify that before I don't want to give them any smoke or juice that they're not doing, but stuff like that. When I saw it, it seemed really cool. I haven't experienced that necessarily in my, in my systems that I have. So I figured, if they're actually trying to generate revenue, it can only help.
And it's like, hey, like if that's what they do, it's like, hey, we're not just going to sit here and tell you what to do. We're going to hop on the phones and make these calls and show you that we can do it too, and we're willing to do it. And then, then you create you get that like snowball of momentum as everybody starts doing the same stuff, and good stuff comes from it.
Yeah. Okay, let me shift gears a little bit. When you're building out your business as a consultant, how do you find like the type of avatar that you like to work with from a candidate perspective? Is there a certain type of person that you lean into and then a certain type that you stay away from?
Definitely stay away from people that are like, yeah, Drew, I'm just looking for some passive income. Dude, I can't help you, man. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wish I could. And I think people just don't know, right? No, I wouldn't. Anybody who's, obviously, like my favorite people to work with are people that are just like ready to change their life in a big way, and they've gone through the personal discovery to kind of get there mentally, from a mindset standpoint, and they're ready they're genuinely trying to figure out what the next chapter is in life, whether it's franchising or buying a business or starting their own little consulting gig. I love working with those people. It's fun. Which is most of the people who we work with, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
But no, I genuinely believe that everybody has a unique story, a unique reason, unique motivations, and trying to help them uncover that. Some people, through some conversations might need a little bit more self-discovery than others, but just kind of jamming, talking through with them, keeping it loose. Good stuff comes. But no, I don't know if there's like a particular one. What about you? You're getting into this game. What do you think so far?
I'm fresh. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. So for me, I feel like I have a harder time resonating with somebody that's been a CFO for the last 40 years. But I also don't want to put self-limiting beliefs on myself. And so I'm trying to tell myself, like, I believe enough in my experience to know that I can add value to anybody. It's just being confident in, like, I don't look like a lot of people that, typically are going to buy a franchise. I might be a little younger. I might not have the articulate what, wealth at a certain stage looks like, just because I haven't seen it. I will say coming in, I felt like I could speak into athletes and coaches the best just because that's where it's the closest to where I do come from. I was an athlete and I was a coach pretty recently, both of those. And so, if I can talk to guys that have money, and I think athletes and coaches typically make good franchisees when they can either plug in or have enough money and resources to hire a really, really solid team around them. So that's kind of what I was looking at. I find that a lot of the people that are responding to my content, and I get that conversation too, and it's just started happening to me where somebody will hit me up and say, hey, I saw the clip that you posted, or, you put some on LinkedIn or Instagram, or, I listened to that episode of your podcast, and, it meant a lot, and I really appreciate it. And that's like the most validating, but also humbling and just wonderful experience ever. But I find that a lot of these people they already bought the brand, they already bought the franchise, and now they're asking for my advice as I'm putting myself out there as a consultant, but they want me to wear my franchisee hat when I'm talking to them. And so I've got to do a better job of getting in front of the people before they have already bought the brand, maybe when they're in that transition phase. And so that's for me. I got to figure out how to do that better, because that's something that I'm 4 months in, so I'm still pretty 4 or 5 maybe, but that's the piece that I really need to, and that'll turn the corner for me, is how do I get in front of the people that I'm already getting in front of, but just doing it maybe 6 months earlier. How do I get them to find me earlier?
I wouldn't sell yourself short on feeling like you can't connect to the 40-year-old finance guy.
Okay.
Because you're living the life that he or she wants to live. You've done it.
Yeah.
You're doing it. I mean, you're living the life that 99.99% of Americans want to live. A self-employed, successful entrepreneur.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I think for people that come in with the right mindset, which there's a little bit of humility, I think that people need to have to approach this the right way. Because if they know it all, they don't need us as consultants, right?
Sure.
But you can help people from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, all different levels of experiences, because you're living and breathing it and you've done it. And that's, I think, what people will respect about you and do respect about you, want your guidance.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and no, I don't I believe it. It's when, it's hard, right? Like you gotta stack bricks every single day. And I haven't seen the success yet from the consultant side of putting together a year that I'm just really proud of, being brand new. And so you just have to trust the process. And so, no, I really do appreciate that, because it's things like that help me to just, all right, I'm going to stack another brick today. I'm going to stack another brick tomorrow, and I'm just going to keep going. So no, that means a lot. What should somebody ask a consultant when they are starting the process? Maybe they're in transition, because the other side of it is I've talked to a couple people who, one guy, God bless him. He found my stuff, reached out to me, knowing that I was a franchisee, and I told him I was a franchise consultant, and he was like, oh man, I hate franchise consultants. And he just started going down all the negative experiences. I had a 45-minute conversation with him. He ended the call telling me, oh, that's the most value I've ever had. This was a great conversation. I still don't know if I want to use your service though. And so they either have which I'm not done with this guy yet. I'm not done with it, because it was a good conversation. But there are people who are interviewing, they're talking to multiple consultants, and we want them to pick us or pick somebody else. But when somebody's looking for a quality consultant, what questions should they ask? And I'll leave you with that.
I think they need to understand the depth of the experience. They need to understand who they're talking to and the experience that they have from the franchise world. Because that's what separates you and me and our colleagues from a lot of the other ones, because there's no barrier to entry. Anybody can call themselves a franchise consultant. There's no third-party accreditation. There's no certification. There's nothing. No matter what all these folks say, but they don't know, right? Like, it's their our candidates.
It's just the title's a title. Yeah.
So that I think that's the most important thing. And then, understanding the process through which we work with people is important. But I tell people, I'm like, look, I don't know where this is going to go. I never know where this is going to go. But here's what I'll tell you. We'll take it one step at a time. If the right thing's out there for you, great. If the right thing isn't out there right now, that's cool too. There's only one way to figure this thing out, and you got to put the work in to do the research, to analyze these things. I can help you find some brands that I think are worth checking out, which we'll kind of, we'll figure out, what you like and don't like in a business and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, like, you have questions, I'll help you get the answers. And if you get to the point where you think a franchise isn't the right thing for you, it's all good. You have an answer.
It's all good. Yeah. Okay.
I kind of hate it when I get interviewed. I'm like, you're probably not going to like my answers to this.
Really? What do you think the mindset is of somebody that's interviewing their consultants, I guess?
I've had people ask me to rebate my referral fee back to them. And I was like, not happening. Good luck. Wish you the best. Take care. I've had people say, so how are you different than these other people I'm talking to? I'm like, well, who are you talking to? I don't know who you're talking to. I don't know how to answer that question.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
All I can tell you is who I am, how I roll. And, at the end of the day, like, whatever you choose, I'm not going to be chasing you down in this thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, and just pick one. Like, don't work with multiples. I don't care if you pick with me or not. Just don't work with multiple consultants. It's going to drive you crazy, and it's going to drive the consultants crazy too. Pick one who you trust and you like, and see where it goes. And if that doesn't work out, maybe then, after you've gone through a full process with somebody, maybe then, if you don't feel like it's the right fit, go interview some other ones or whatever.
Sure. Okay. So somebody picks you, you're working with the candidate, and it gets to the point where they have to validate from other franchisees. How are you coaching them up at this point to set themselves up for success?
Dude, that's where I spend the most amount of time. That's like, I tell people, like, look, I'm like, you can get sold the dream. You can get sold the dream. Like, all these sales reps are really good at making their business sound amazing. That's what they do. You're going to find out how amazing it is or isn't when you talk to franchisees. And so we have a 20, 30-minute call on how to approach those conversations. I've got, some simple questions that they can use to kind of get the conversation going. But I'm very candid with people. I'm like, look, don't just sit on these conference calls that they host every week. You're going to want to pull up that FDD and get the contact list in the back of the franchise disclosure document and have some offline one-on-one conversations. And guess what? It might also be worth hopping in a car and driving 3 or 4 hours to go spend half a day with one of these franchisees so you can see the business in action, or even hopping on a plane. Let's not do that to the neighboring franchisee, because they might want to buy the territory you're looking at, but we'll figure that out. So yeah, no, I'm very, and if it's a new brand that, cause we're in FDD season right now, right? So like all these current FDDs are 15 months old. So like all of last year's growth is not in the current FDD. So I'm like, look, you might have to go on LinkedIn and like do some sleuthing to track down the newer franchisees who opened last year that aren't in the FDD. Like, it's worth it. Now, that's what I tell people. Do people actually do that?
Probably not.
I think they do a percentage of it. It's hard. Okay. Validating is to validate very well is very hard.
There should be like and I'm sure there's resources out there, and I'm sure, you've got some, and I know we have some in our network, but I think that might be something I put together and kind of customize myself as like a validation checklist, something that, you just guide people through. Cause that was my favorite thing about being a franchisee before I came over on this side, was having those validation calls. Cause I gave more than they even asked for. Because I knew that if they were going to come in and do this, they better be ready. And I'm a teacher and coach by trade, and so it just kind of fit. And so I love the idea of helping validate. And that's honestly the thing I'm most excited about as a consultant, is really digging in with individuals and helping them when they start validating those other brands and then getting the questions back. Cause I love learning about how all these businesses work and how the successful franchisees, no matter what the business, how they built it. Cause all these skills are translatable. Like, yes, every business is different, but if you could do it with one, if somebody built a successful milkshake factory business, something that they did, I can translate that to my Mosquito Joe business. 100%.
No doubt.
100%.
No doubt.
Okay.
Yeah, and you you having fun with those validation calls when as a franchisee. I'm sure you're not the only franchisee in the Mosquito Joe system that was willing to share a lot with people who are willing to reach out to you, be humble, deal with your busy schedule. Maybe sometimes you got to reschedule stuff. It happens. You're running a business, and be respectful, but also ask really good questions. Did you find as a franchisee, like the better questions after people, after you got to know somebody, like, did you feel like the better questions they asked you, the better the conversation was?
You can totally validate somebody's or confirm somebody's like level of excellency based on the level of the questions that they ask. You can gauge their mindset. You can gauge how successful, for sure. And if they come in and all they're going to ask is about like the returns and margins, it's so spread. Like, I would lead with, I'm not the best, but I'm definitely not the worst. We've got, 200 plus franchisees, and I'm sitting in, my goal is always to make that top 25 list. And we've been in there a few times, right? So that sets the stage. Like, I'm not a top performing, like I'm not in the top 25 out of our 300, but I'm sitting in the 30s consistently. So I'm pretty good. And so I'll tell people, you need to talk to my guy, Lee Woodham, who's always top 5. He's my neighbor franchisee. He's the best. Talk to him. And then you're going to want to call some people that are way below me, and they'll be more than willing to tell you all the negative, but then come back to me, because I'll tell you, okay, what's realistic and what you can control, and where luck comes into play, and where some things hit and other things don't. And that's where I'm able to position myself as a solid resource and then build relationships with these guys over an extended period of time, because that then just adds value to me and my network and what I'm trying to build. So yeah, 100%. 100%.
That's why you get to have conversations like that, right? And learn stuff that you weren't expecting to learn on a call.
Yeah, 100%. So, okay, as we wrap it up, we're almost at the hour. I appreciate your time. This has been a lot of fun. I told you we're just going to riff, and I feel like we hit a lot. What is there anything else that you like, just off the top, that you think is important for people to look at, for maybe something from your journey, maybe something that you wanted me to ask you that I didn't, that you hit on, and we covered I feel like we covered some pretty good bases. I feel like this is going to be a fun episode.
I mean, is there one thing? I mean, there's probably like 40 things, right? I mean, I think it's a journey. Like it's a journey. It's, it's not, I think that's the way to kind of embrace it, is just think of it as a journey, and there'll be good days and bad days. And, you just keep stacking up the good days, and the bad days get better, as you keep growing through this whole thing. But no, I think we covered a bunch. I'm good.
How have you been able to, this is my last question, just from a personal standpoint, over the years as you've kind of developed in the franchising space, how have you been intentional with your personal growth as you've kind of added experience and you've gotten better at the craft?
Oh man, you know what I do? You know what I do? Every candidate who I talk to, I try to learn something new about life, the world, business, politics,
I like that.
Whatever they want to talk about, right? I'm like, that's my mindset. It's just like always trying to learn, try to filter out the stuff that maybe isn't applicable at that time, that might not be actionable or whatever it is, but just, learn from people, everybody who I talk to. I don't like to do most of the talking. I like to ask the questions, and it like today, I've probably had 8 calls already. Well, sorry, I had 8 calls scheduled, only 4 of them showed up. But yeah, I think it kind of like keeps my mind fresh too when I'm working with somebody, to like genuinely just kind of get to know them, on a deeper level than, reading off some questions on a sheet or whatever.
Oh, that's good, man. I was just talking to my team about sales, and I've got my my field supervisor that started with me as a technician 3 years ago. I think we're going on his 4th season. And he was asking me just generally, because he went on he's been doing more quotes and more sales because he's leveling up. And he said, from your experience in selling all the different things that you've sold in your career, what are some good tips? And, we just talked about, you have to have a general expertise. It's good to be an expert in what you're doing, and expertise in the sense of having flexed the muscle so much to where you don't necessarily have to talk about your expertise, but people can see it. People can see when you're ripped and jacked, and they can see when you're not. And when you get to the appointment, asking questions and having a sense of understanding the percentages. I like to do this on the podcast. I don't know if I hit my metric this time, but when I interview somebody, I want like 20 to 30% of the time I'm talking, and then 70 to 80% of the time the other person is talking. And like I said earlier, the listener should be able to gauge my level of expertise off of the type of questions that I'm asking and how well I facilitated this conversation. And I have to seek to learn. And I think that's sales 101 is asking questions. How do I facilitate my solution into the problem that you have? And I don't know. I think this podcast was strategically random. I tried to make it I didn't want to have anything organized. I had a concept of what I wanted to hit you at, but I appreciate your input, man. I definitely learned some good stuff. I like that. I'm going to take that. Every time I talk to somebody, I'm going to intentionally try to learn something about their worldview. Because the one thing I picked up from franchising is people come from all different walks of life. I mean, it's ridiculous.
No doubt about that.
It's 100%. Ridiculous. Well, cool, man. Drew Carpenito, you are a gem, my friend. I appreciate you coming on the Streetwise Podcast. Give us a plug for the book real quick. You're not just going to slide that on. The pamphlet, as you said. What's it called? Where can I find it?
Can I get on? Franchise Investment Guide. It's available on Amazon.com.
There we go.
Yeah. But no, I think like you said, like, I mean, if you're thinking about getting into the franchise world, like there's so much information out there that you can plug into to, familiarize yourself with it as well. So you come in prepared. So no, I appreciate you having me on, Matt, and yeah, call it a wrap.
Let's go. All right, listener, if you like this, like it, share it. As always, stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Peace.
I like that. So yeah.
All right, everybody, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Hey, if this episode added any value to your life at all, please like it, share it, give me a 5-star review. It's the only way that this show is going to gain traction and help more people achieve their dreams. If you're ready to start your franchise journey, visit streetwisefranchising.com. Let's set up a time to talk. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Until next time, stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Peace.